Okay, so to finish up this this series on, I don't know, what do we call it? Hair, grooming, something like that. So I'm going to focus on what's colloquially known as Peiyos, Pas Harosh. Originally we called it Peiyos and beards, but then when I listened to our Terchiner's shir from 2 weeks ago on electric shavers, a source of Yerachim, I realized that he'd covered most of the practical questions on beards, both in terms of where exactly the 5 corners of the beard are, and then in terms of what the prohibition is in terms of cutting it. So I'm going to focus on what he didn't, which was Pas Harosh. So it comes from the same pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim in number 1. Lo zakifu pas roshchem, lo sashcheses pas zekinecha. You shall not round the corners of your head, and you can't destroy the corners of your beard. So we're going to come back to the phraseology of that pasuk, in the phrasing of that pasuk in just a moment. But first, I know Rav Chiner touched on this. What is the reason for this prohibition, and does it make any difference? So the Rambam suggests the reason both for the prohibition of cutting the peyos of the head and the peyos and the corners of the beard is to not look like the idolaters who used to cut their hair and their beards this way. Now, many of the Rishonim and the Achronim, or the later, whatever, the early Rishonim, and the late Achronim, suggest that either the Rambam doesn't mean this halacha l'maisa, he means it as sort of the philosophy behind the mitzvah, but has no halachic ramifications, that like the Meshech Chachma, or they disagree with his reason entirely and they suggest alternatives. But if you think that his reason is A, the correct reason, and B, isn't just the philosophy behind it, but actually has halachic implications, so you get to a machlokas between the Taz and the Paramiros that's noted in the Pischei Tshuva, the beginning of Yardeh Kofei Aleph, where the Taz writes that Kosav Taz, the source 2, Kosav Taz Sivkat Aleph Tila HaRambam T'Toladin Zebov De'elilim Shuchok Shalahem Imken Yishlavim Heter Misham Shol Malchus. So there is a dispensation that the Gemara offers when it comes to, let's say, dressing in the ways of idolaters, that if one is involved in, the source over here, if one is involved in Shlom Malchus, right, if someone is involved in the government and he needs to pass as a non-Jew, so then he's allowed to dress like a non-Jew. So if you think that this is one of those derivative Isurim of Avodah Zarah, then similarly you would be able to waive this prohibition. And if one was involved in the government, so then, and he needed to fit in, so then he could cut his peyos as well. And that's the position of the Taz. But the Panamiros pushes back and he says, "Vani omer chalila lomer ken, it can't be l'das haRambam. Da'af mashen nizkar b'smin kifayim ches dasrum min haTorah malkim no l'das haRambam v'tir chom l'krovei malchus v'pnei shlo pirsha Torah shum davar umasra l'chachamim v'heimro l'hatir l'krovim l'malchus." He said, look, even if you think that B'chilkosem lo seilechu is biblical and you get malchus for it, in the end of the day, it's a generic prohibition. It doesn't say don't dress like non-Jews. It says don't be like non-Jews. And Chazal have to interpret it. Once Chazal have to interpret it, they have a level of authority over the implementation, over the legislation, as you were interpret, whatever, of the halacha. And therefore, if they decide that you can waive that prohibition when someone's involved in government, so that's fine. But when it comes to lo sakif v'asar shechem mashim befurish b'torah le'isur, here, even if the reason for the mitzvah is avodah zarah, since what it says in the Torah is don't cut the corners of your head, even if that's the reason, the mitzvah will apply to everyone without exception. Because if it was just another idolatrous practice, so put it under the general heading of B'chukosem lo sereichu. So must be as we said, and therefore you can't waive it. And this is the majority of poskim who either think that the Rambam didn't mean it to affect the halacha itself, it was just a Tama mitzvah, or alternatively they disagree with the Tama mitzvah, but the Taz did take it halacha l'maisa. Okay, now
Chas meaning only for Peiyos for the beard too.
So for only, presumably both, but he writes it about Peiyos, because the Rambam says it about both. So I assume both. Okay. Now the Gemara. The central Gemara on this topic is the same Gemara that Rashina quoted, whatever it was, 2 weeks ago, where the Gemara says, "Amak basrosh Gemara makos Torah paas rosho sofro sho vezu sofro sho zamashvat sidaav lacharav azno lefadachto." So what are the paas harosh? What are we talking about? So they are the edges of the head, which is if you make the size of your head equal to what's behind your ear, and so basically you make a circle around your head, right? You round the head. That's what the word takif means, to encircle. And this prohibition is unique because not only is the one who gets the haircut, not only the one who gives the haircut violates, but even the one who gets the haircut violates, and therefore you can't go to a non-Jewish barber and have him cut off your payos. That doesn't work. Amr Lei says that Truman Dachal Tamri Barbila Lake. He said, how could this be? Without getting to the details of that challenge, so he says, maybe either Damar Chamani or Bihudi, Damar Lavshin Masalok. And Allah, so maybe it's Rabbi Yehuda who thinks you always violate for passive prohibitions. Rava Omer B'Makiv La'atzmo V'divrei Hakol. Rava says maybe the case is where you shave your own head. Rav Ashi says, Misayed V'divrei Hakol. No, everyone agrees that you will violate if you aid in any way. And therefore, if you go to a barber, you turn your head, right? He says, is it good? You turn your head to the left, to the right. He says, move your head, stay still. Whatever you're doing, that is misayeya, and then you clearly would violate. And by the beard as well, pasik no, tanaban pasik no, sofsik no. That's the edge of the beard. Sofsik no, shibolas zik no. Okay. The Gemara in Nazir brings a potential machlokas as to whether the prohibition is only if you cut the peiyos by themselves, or even if you shave your head, including the peiyos, right? I mean, is it that you can't leave your hair and shave peiyos, or you can never shave your peiyos? But the Gemara in the end concludes, if you just look at the last line in number 4, Shma Hakaf. Everyone agrees that that even if you shave your entire head, you will violate the prohibition. That's a little bit of background. Okay. But with that background, now we need to figure out a few things. So let me just sort of outline the questions we need to ask, and then we'll get to them one at a time. So, first question we're going to have to ask is, okay, we get it. The peiyos are on the head, the beard is the beard. But where exactly does the peiyos end and the beard begin? That's question 1. Question 2 is, why does that even matter? Right? Meaning, if you can't shave your peiyos and you can't shave your beard, then is there a difference between the peiyos and the beard such that it makes a difference where one starts, where the next one begins? And as we'll see, that's going to be a machlokas rishonim, and it's going to focus on the linguistic difference in the pasuk, because the pasuk, well, by the beard it says, "Lo sashchis es pasuk kenecha," don't destroy the corners of your beard, which Chazal then derive means that you can't destroy it in a destructive way, but you can cut it with, let's say, a scissor. When by the peiyos you say lo sakifu, so then the Rishonim have to wonder, is that going to have similar halachot to the beard? Meaning, you are allowed to shave off your peiyos as long as you do it with a scissor, an electric shaver, or does the fact that it uses a different word, takif, tell you that it's more expensive? That it's not just that you can't destroy it, but that there's a positive mitzvah, perhaps, to have peiyos, or it's, even if it's a prohibition, it's more demanding, shall we say, than peiyos, which is going to, as we'll see, the position of most Rishonim, though notably not the Rambam. So that's the second question we have to deal with. We're going to have to deal with questions that come up, especially in peiyos. Even if you think that halachically you need very minimal peiyos, is there a metaphysical reason, a spiritual reason, a mystical reason, any other reason to have longer peiyos? And we know that especially in peiyos, people tend to go beyond what they absolutely need in halacha. And we're going to have to see why that is true. So those are some of the halachic issues that we're going to have to deal with as we go through. Okay, so where exactly do the Peiyos split from the beard? So I gave you in 5 from the Shulchan HaLevi. In this year I drew a lot on a shir by 2 shir by Rabbi Aryeh Leibowitz. Some of these sources I got from his source sheet because I didn't have access to the books at home, and also from Ray Simon, who's one of the Rosh Yeshiva at YU, who has a 15. If you're really interested in beards and Peiyos, he has a 15-part series on beards and Peiyos, each of them an hour long, and each of them has a source packet, which I haven't gone through all of them, but at least the first 2, each of them is 28 pages, so they're all pachot or yoter like that, so go ahead, 370 pages of, whatever, more than that, no, 420 pages, or pachot, I don't know. Of Mar Makomos, yes. So, whatever, there's plenty to say on beards and Peiyos. I finished, when I ran out of room on the 4th page, I stopped copying Makaros. That was it. But I do know I can get through this Makaros because I did a test run with the university students yesterday and I got through it. So hopefully we can do that today anyways. Okay, so where exactly, what is the Peiyos? So, Rav Belsky says as follows: the author heard from Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky that the upper limit of the Peiyos HaRosh begin at the highest point of the hairline as it arches over the ear and extends in a slightly curved line, so sort of like, here, it gets that circle, across to where the hairline of the forehead turns sharply downward towards the sideburns. All the hair from the imaginary line that connects these 2 points and below comprise the Peiyos HaRosh. Right, so okay, if you can figure out exactly where that is, right, but it's basically, right, this part over here on the head. Some Rabbanim have a Masorah, a tradition of the rabbis, that the Peiyos do not extend above the upper cartilage of the ear at all, so it's just from here to here, right, until the top of the cartilage, so whatever this, I don't know, however big that is, this much. According to their Masorah, the imaginary line extends horizontally from the point in the hairline above the foremost part of the ear almost until where the downward slope of the frontal hairline angles back towards the ear. Okay, I'm not totally sure exactly where that is, right? But I sort of understand what he wants. Ray Leibowitz said that Rav Belsky asked, I forget who it was, I think it was Rav Belsky. Sorry, I asked Ray Bleich what it is, and he said he asked a Rosh Yeshiva, and the Rosh Yeshiva pointed to someone in Yeshiva who had who was a redhead but was going white, and he said, "You see that, Rosh Yeshiva? So you see where his hair." Right, because the beard sometimes changes at a different rate than the hair. So he said, "You see where it is white? That's the beard. Where it's still tinged red, that's the head." Right, because you can sort of see, right, when they change at different rates, whatever that is, that's over here somewhere around there. The Arizal, according to Beis Lechem Yudah, is a slightly different formulation. He says, "Rizal Noeg be'inyan Peiyos HaRosh maniach kol rochav atzadim shu kol aser sheish min ha'ozen ad shlish hametzach." He said it's all the hair from the ear to a third of the forehead. Shu makom machalak sheish berosh mitznei tzedei hamoach. So like this. Right, I guess a third of my forehead, so about that. Right, okay, pachot yoter, mazig in time of a govay maniach yeshir im yakumo aznaim lamala, berosh araso amakom v'yoser ma'at lamala. And then he would go up slightly from the, right, if the ears were straight, so a little bit farther up. Okay, but that's basically what we're talking about in terms of the Peiyos HaRosh. Now, the Eretz Tzvi in number 7, notes that he said there are people, he saw people. I don't know what that is. So one of the reasons it's important to know where it is because sometimes what does he see? People who they think they have very long Peiyos. Right? But sometimes people do it. It comes from up here. Right? Like from the top of the head, they just let it grow out and then they wrap it around their ear. So they think they're Lamahadra and they have these huge Peiyos, Elamai. Then what do? They shave over here. right? Because, I already have Peiyos. But no. The Peiyos are wherever exactly they are, right? They're, this top part of the ear to the, the hair parallel to the forehead, or exactly where to draw the line. It's not the stuff that's still up here on the head. So just having long Peiyos, quote unquote, that come down from the top of your head, but shaving everything here, right? That's not good. You'd end up violating an Isser. So it is important to know that the Ikar Peiyos is, right, not all the way to the top of the head, nor is it the beard, which has its own halachos. It's this upper part of the ear, lower part of the forehead area, the corner of the head, and Peiyos need to be coming from there. Anything above there, it's very nice, doesn't count. Anything below there is the beard, and therefore is subject to the halachos of the beard. Well, the halachos of Peiyos are specifically that area in that right, whatever exactly you want to put it, but somewhere around the top of the ear, lower part of the forehead. Okay. Now, how far do they go down? So again, comes back to our Terchiner Shir. If you remember, so there's the 5 corners of the beard, so the Peiyos are going to come, right, they start there, they come down a little bit, and then, somewhere on the beard, pick up the 5 corners of the beard, which I'm not going to go back over. Okay. So if you remember, number 9, the Gemara says that in the case of the beard, you only violate if you shave it. The Gemara said derech hashchata, meaning with a blade, and therefore the Gemara is makil with b'milkit, b'rehitni, with all those other types of cunning instruments. So, do those dispensations apply to Peiyos or not? Meaning, do you have to have Peiyos, or you could shave off your Peiyos? You just need to make sure to use a electric razor and make sure it's not lift and cut, or it is lift and cut, depending on what you think. I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, Terchiner said, according to most poskim it is usher. That's true. According to most poskim it's usher. There are poskim who say it's mutter, though he didn't quote. Rabbi Navitch says it is mutter in his Shuvas Milumdei Milchama. He is indeed mekil. If I gather it correctly. So do the same dispensations apply to the Pas HaRosh? So the Balei Tosfos think not, and this is based, as I said, simply on the linguistic distinction between the hair and the beard, whereby the beard it says lo tashchit, which implies only derech hashchata with a blade, but by the Pas HaRosh it says don't round the head, and that means don't make it that you don't have Peiyos. Doesn't matter how you got rid of them, don't make it you don't have Peiyos. And that is the position of the Balei Tosfos, but they get it also from a Gemara in Nazir Daf Mem Aleph. The Gemara in 10 tells you as follows. The Gemara there discusses how it is that we know, or why it is that the pasuk has to tell us that you shave the head and the beard of a mitzorah. At the end of a mitzorah, tahara process, you shave his head, his beard, everything. And the Gemara says, why do you need to tell me this? So the Gemara says, because you need to know that it's doche, the prohibition, that it overrides the prohibition of shaving the beard and of cutting the head. Normally it would be prohibited to shave off the beard and the Peiyos. In the case of the mitzorah, you are obligated to do it. But if you look at the Gemara, so look 3 lines down. The Gemara says, why do I need one pasuk by the beard and one pasuk by the Peiyos? So Gemara says, if I had said the beard without the head, I might have thought that shaving the whole head doesn't violate the prohibition, only focusing on the Peiyos. So it needs to say Rosho, telling me that no, cutting any of the hair is prohibited, and that's why I need an override for Mitzorah. Because of Rosho, below because of Zikno, Havamina Mashma Tarte, Dasi Ase Vidachi is Losase, Umashma, that was called Rosh Shma Kafa, Vakati Bitar Minolan. The Gemara said, okay, I might have thought that, okay, I know that it's doche, but how do I know I can use a blade? Lahachi Kasav Rachmana Zikno. So the pasuk says your beard. What?
I have to use a blade, or that I can use a blade?
Yeah, no, you have to use a blade, because it has to be total, right? You cut off all the hair for a mitzorah. So Tosfos picks up and says, wait a second. By the beard, it says you have to do it with a tar, because what's normally asur is now chayav. But it doesn't mention it by the Pas HaRosh, which implies that the prohibition of Peiyos is different than the beard. The beard, you only can't shave it derech hashchasa with a blade, but the pas harosh is usher to cut it all, and that's what Tosfos says in 11. Mash malcha besugya didon da kavas harosh afilu below tar vechein isa b'toras kohanim zos tiem toras mitzvah rosho matam lomer lefishiz bezakin mashen ken v'rosh b'rosh mashen bezakin sharosh asher b'misparayim v'zakin mutter. He said the implication of the Gemara and what is explicit in the Mechilta is that when it comes to the pas harosh, even with scissors, it is prohibited to cut it. However, he notes that Tosefta de Makos, but the Tosefta in Makos, and that's what I gave you in 13, doesn't say that. Right? Skip to 13, just so you can see the Tosefta that he quotes. Right? Right? The Tosefta says not like the Mechilta, and says that even by Peiyos, it's only usher if you cut it with a blade. And what is explicit in Tosfos says that even though it says it in Tosefta, that's not a we paskin, and therefore when you are cutting your head and when you're cutting your kid's hair, you have to make sure to leave Peiyos. And he said the minhag is to leave a lot of hair by the Peiyos, not to skimp on hair around the Peiyos area. And that is the minhag, and that's the position of Tosfos. But the Rambam, following the Tosefta, paskins not that way, and he says, "Upei azushim nichem b'tzadayim lo nasnu b'chamshir." And we'll come back to that in a minute. Just skip to the end of the line. Umutter l'laket apez mitzbarayim lo neser l'ashchasa betar. Just like by the beard, it's only usher with a blade. By the peh, it's usher with a blade. So according to the Rambam, therefore, it is mutter. You want to shave off your payas, you can. You just have to use the right type of blade, right? Use scissors and then take your electric, razor and shave off your payos. There is no prohibition. You have no obligation to have payos. It's just that you can't cut it with the wrong type of blade. Now, if the Rambam then adds that if you are shaving it with a blade, how much hair do you have to leave? So he says he has a Mesorah from his Rebbeim, she'eino maniach pacham erbam saros. It's only considered shaving it if you don't leave 40 hairs. If you have 40 hairs left at the Peiyos, so then that is totally permitted. Now, so as we already mentioned, the Rambam gets this from the Tosefta, presumably. The Shara Mishpat notes that it also emerges from number 15, because the Gemara in 15 implies that there is a full hekesh, a full equation halachically, the Pa'as HaZakein and the Pa'as Harosh, the Gemara on Daf Nun Zayin Amud Beis. The Tosfos Reid I gave you in 14. Also paskins like the Rambam. And he defends the linguistic point, but just suffice it to say that there is a machlokes between the Rambam and the Balei HaTosfos. Okay, how do we paskin? So you look at 16 in Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says Pas Haroshim Shtayim Sofa Rosh Makom Chibur Lechem Yamin Mismol. The Pa'as Harosh, there are two, one on each side. And whether you shave only the peyos or your whole head, including the peyos, you violate. And eino chayav ela b'tar, but you only violate if you use a blade. V'yesh omrim b'misparayim ke'in tar, and some people, meaning Balei HaTosfot, paskin, it's usher even with scissors. V'yesh lachush l'divrayim, and you should be machmir like the Balei HaTosfot. So the Rambam and Tosfos are both quoted in Shulchan Aruch. So who does he really paskin like? Right? Which one does he really paskin like? So it sounds like at least Shulchan Aruch paskins be'ikar din like the Rambam. Right, that you're actually allowed to cut off your peyos as long as it's with scissors. But he says you should be machmir like the Balei HaTosfot. So do we paskin like Shulchan Aruch or not? Okay, Shulchan Aruch paskins like the Rambam. Do we? So if you look at the Kol Mavaser in 17, some poskim say absolutely not, under no circumstances. We do not paskin like this at all. So 17, he says, Mishum Wrath, Hayotze Lon Midivrei Kol HaPoskim HaMachaber Manal She'aveti the Pa'as Harosh Ikachyuva Mi De'oraisa B'Misparayim Ke'in Tar. He said all poskim Well, the poskim I've just mentioned say, no, you aren't allowed to cut your payos even with scissors. Zulas la Rambam vasmagdi no shave didino shave lepasazak. In the Rambam and the Smag are outliers. V'zakim is Rambam kain dar also midir abanan. And even by the beard, you shouldn't use scissors to cut it at least too closely, and that's midir abanan aser v'nagu yisrael lahachmer bazeh. So the Kol Mavaser says the minhag is very strongly against the Rambam. The minhag is very, very much against the Rambam. If you want to see how much so skip down to 22. The Kol Mavaser notes this Tshuvas Tashbeitz. The Tshuvas Tashbeitz says as follows: Kasev tochacha lekal asher ba'e Mallorca. Right, Mallorca, that vacation island in Spain. I don't know. Okay.
Apparently, there's a lot of Moranos there.
Well, that's what we're talking about. We're about to talk about them. Yes, these are Moranos. I mean, the Tashbeitz. Well, I get Tashbeitz a bit early for that, but but a little bit before that, but. I think it's before that actually. But
somebody came here and spoke about Rav Elyashiv was involved. He himself was from there.
Okay. I honestly only knew what Mallorca was because like in what? No, there's a passing reference to it in Harry Potter that I think it's like Uncle Vernon's sister goes on vacation in Mallorca. That's about all I know about Mallorca. But fine. He said, he said, I see that all these people coming from Mallorca don't have payos. And you're chayev Malchus every time you cut it. And it's also even with scissors. Yesh Malchus pasarosh l'ksivu ashchasa. Even with scissors, it's also because it's also even if you don't destroy it. And if you do it so much, you think it's mutter. Kilu nichrav b'Torah, and you think it's not in the Torah. Hareim ke'elu avral kol Torah kula ve'in shchitasam ksheira. It's like you violated the whole Torah, and your shchita is invalid. V'mekadesh b'fneim isha ina mikudeshes. And if you get married in front of them, they're psulei eidos, and your kedushin doesn't work. Eilu advarim yachulu arosh oivechem. This is what should happen to your enemies. So the Tashbeitz, what?
Pardon the pun.
Exactly. So he really is unhappy with this, right? He's not just like, oh yeah, it's a machlok. He's like, no, there is no justification. And the Rosh Rath in 23 says, well, why so bad? So he says, if you look at the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva says that one of the categories of the people as no chelik in Olam Haba is people who violate avirot so regularly that they don't even realize it's aser because there's no hope for tshuva, right? They don't even internalize they're doing something wrong, and they're amongst the minim and the kofrim and all that. They're right, and he said, that's why the Tashbeitz is so angry. So you see that the poskim will think it is aser, think it is really aser. The Rambam, and to be fair, the Shulchan Aruch, notwithstanding, right? That you don't normally see this on us. I mean, Tashbeitz is before the Shulchan Aruch, but the Kol Mavaser is 20th century, right? To be that harsh against Shulchan Aruch is quite striking. But the poskim who are against it are really against it. On the other hand, there are other poskim who note that even though we're machmir, the pashtus of Shulchan Aruch is that meikra din we paskin like the Rambam, that you're allowed to cut off your payas, you just can't do it with a blade. So you look at the Darkei Tshuva in 20 and 21. He quotes from the Ritva. First of all, that even the Rambam might only say that it's mutter mid'oraisa, but he notes that the Ritva suggests that even according to people who think it's mutter to cut with scissors, it might be midas chasidus not to do that because of maris ayin, right? Because no one knows if you cut it with a scissors or a blade. Fine, but in 22, in 21, he quotes from the Tshuvas Zera Yitzchak. The Zera Yitzchak was asked the following question. Someone said that for years he'd been following the Shita of Shulchan Aruch, and he'd been cutting off his payas with scissors, just not using an illegal blade. And at some point he realized that was wrong. That wasn't the accepted psak. So he asked the Zera Yitzchak, do I have to do tshuva? So the Zera Yitzchak told him, no, you don't. Because Meikra Din we paskin like the Rambam. So what? It's a shogeg on a chumrah, right? Meikra Din we paskin like the Rambam. So, okay, we usually tell you to be machmir, but b'shogeg, you violated on our chumrah. But Sarako, what'd you do? Right, you cut it with a scissor, which is fine according to the Rambam and according to Shulchan Aruch, and therefore he says, Al Kopan Linat Shuva Al Sha'avar B'Shogeg Yesh Lishmoch Al Das Rambam Lahakel Ein Sham Ba'orech. So for Shogeg plus something which is the Rambam Shulchan Aruch, anyways, you don't even have to do tshuva, right? So you see that there are these machlokas amongst the Achronim. How much do we paskin? Like the Rambam, how much do we paskin like? Tosfos, even after Shulchan Aruch seems to paskin like the Rambam, there is this open question, the Achronim. Do we totally reject Shulchan Aruch and say it's asur, 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 or do we say we're machmir, but it's not so bad if you paskin like the Rambam? Now, parenthetically, just because this is an important thing to know in general, so I put it here, one of the poskim who weighs in on this question is one of the oddest svarim ever written, the Shut Min HaShamayim. Right, the Shut Min HaShamayim is one of the Balei Tosfot, Rabbi Yaakov of Marvej, also known as Rabbeinu Tam of Marvej, because all Balei Tosfot, anyone apparently in the French, German Balei Tosfot school whose name was Yaakov became Tam, for obvious reasons, but this creates confusion, because often you'll find traditions in the name of Rabbeinu Tam that aren't Rabbeinu Tam at all. They're from Rabbi Yaakov of Marvej, which explains a lot, because Rabbeinu Tam was very not mystical in his psak, and Rabbi Yaakov of Marvej is very mystical. Why? Because Rabbi Yaakov of Marvej wrote a whole book called Shut Min HaShamayim. Why is it called Shut Min HaShamayim? Because it's exactly what it sounds like. He would have a bunch of shilas, he would write it on a piece of paper, he'd put it under his pillow, and in the morning he'd have a dream, and whatever he heard in his dream, he wrote down, and that is the book. So he writes in 18, he asked this question, right? Do we pass like the Rambam or like Tosfos? Or like the Gemara or the Tosefta, as he puts it, right? So he said, 18 in the middle, V'hishivo, Likrat Samei of Mayim, Likrat Etzmeim L'direi Torah V'chomninos of the Mayim, V'rashivish L'osar Torah, Kafas HaRosh, Ela Shlo Yiri Yisrael Kim Sham Shavod Zara, V'chol Meka V'chol Shash Shavod Zara Mikin Lo Yama, V'chol Machmer Marichan Lo Yam Mushnosav. He said, right, this malach, or this angelic voice told him, look, the reason it is asur is because you can't look like an idolater. If you cut your peiyos one way or the other, you'll look like an idolater, and therefore it is asur, and you should never try to find kulos when it comes to avodah zarah, and therefore you should be machmer. We paskin like Tosfos and not like the Rambam. How much weight does the Shut Min HaShamayim have in halacha? So I gave you in 19 for a small piece from Yabi Omer. But if you're interested in it, so Chelak Aleph, Tshuva Mem Aleph, or Rechaim and Yabi Omer, the entire Tshuva is on this topic, is how seriously do we take Shut Min HaShamayim lehalacha, because on the one hand you'd say, hey, it's from God, that's good, we should paskin like God. On the other hand, we have Lo B'Shamayim, we don't paskin based on dreams, we don't paskin based on nevuah, don't paskin based on any of this stuff. So Bavadia goes through this whole thing. He is so first he tries to defend him, and he says it's not just how much we rely on him. He says, isn't it asur? So he says not asur because it's not nevuah. Dream is only 1/60th of nevuah. So a navi reshai lechadesh davar me'ata. Right? A navi doesn't have the right to be mechadesh new psak. A dreamer. Not so, or even be machriya. We don't listen to a navi to be machriya psak. A dream might be different. So he said maybe it's not violating a halacha or whatever. But he said, look, pastures is that chalomos are just they're dvarim b'teila. I mean, like it's not so important, right? It's that it's whatever, right? We don't change our minhag, right? His conclusion is, in the end of the day, lo b'shamayim, he tells us we don't rely on these things, we don't rely on dreams, and therefore, lo malav and lo morid, that, I mean, you can quote it if you want, but in terms of binding halacha, the fact that it's there doesn't help you. He brings arguments back and forth in that tshuva if you are interested in the topic. Okay, close parentheses. Okay, so we're up to 24 then. So, what we have so far is that wherever exactly the Pas HaRosh start, the Rambam says at that point it still has the same halachos as the Pas HaZaken, that you are allowed to cut it as long as you use the right type of scissors, the right type of instrument. The Tosfos say not. Shulchan Aruch says Meikar Din, he passes with the Rambam. But B'diavad, Lechatchila tells you Paskin like Tosfos. Kol Mavaser says that the poskim really, regardless of what Shulchan Aruch says, really paskin that it is usher to cut the payos at all. And the Darkei Tshuva, according to the Ziring Yitzchak, who said no, Maker didn't really do paskin on the Rambam. Even if Michomra Midas Chasidus, you should avoid cutting off the payos because of Maris Ayin and the like. And we had that ha'ara of there at Tzvi that make sure not to leave hair which isn't the payos or the beard. Right, and then think you've fulfilled your mitzvah, and then shave off anything that is halachically significant. That would be atrocious. Okay, next question the poskim ask is, what about plucking hair? Right, what about pulling it out? Not cutting it, but pulling it out. So the Aruch Laner, or if I asked you, is it mutter to pull out your payos out of your head? What would you say? At first glance, what does it depend on?
Is it hashchata or not?
Yeah. Well, before we get to that, Rambam Tosfos, does hashchata matter? Right, meaning according to Tosfos, hashchasa shouldn't matter because there's an active chiyuv to have payos. According to the Rambam, then you would say, right, if according to the Rambam it's only derech hashchasa, then you have to ask, is pulling out derech hashchasa? And that's what the Aruch Laner says. It depends on the Rambam versus Tosfos. However, there was this fascinating diyun that went back and forth between Rabbi Akiva Eiger and the Chassam Sofer. As follows. Rabbi Akiva Eiger says, well, wait a second. If we paskin like Tosfos, that when it comes to payos, you're not allowed to cut the payos, even with a mutter blade. So then, not only should it be usher to cut your payos off, but there's something much more mundane every day that should be usher as well, namely combing your hair. Because Gemara Nazir says that a Nazir isn't allowed to comb his hair because it's a psik reisha that he's going to pull out hair. But if you think that when it comes to pas harosh, it's usher to pull out, to remove the hair, doesn't matter how you do it, you shouldn't be allowed to comb your hair. So why is it mutter to comb your payos? So that led to a machlokas Rabbi Akiva Eiger and the Chassam Sofer. Look at 25. It's according to Piskei Tshuva. He says, "Minalan het shrikas pasa rosh laman machmer fil misraim kein tamishon lofina rosh mizaken im kein yesh laser kol minei akafa fil misrak." Right? If it's true that we forbid everything, so then you shouldn't even be allowed to comb your payos. V'huz al herech einshim puk bazeh lo mi boy ladas aram do you have shivur lepasa rosh arbaim saros. The Chassam Sofer said, not so fast. First of all, even according to the Rambam, because the Rambam tells you that what is it? Right, the Rambam has 2 points. One is that it's only usher to cut your hair with a forbidden blade. But he also tells you that at Mesorah that it's only usher to cut your payos if you don't leave 40 hairs. So if you're going to comb your hair, usually you don't pull out most of the hair. You leave 40 hairs, so it's fine. But he said the Smag seems to think that it's usher even to cut in a forbidden way even 2 hairs. So still, it should be mutter. It should be usher. But he said, no, according to Smag, it is usher. Why? Sorry, it's mutter. Why is it mutter? So I gave you the Chuvin Sfahanagos' analysis of it in 26. So he says as follows. He said, because there's a few differences. First of all, even if you think that it's usher to cut your hair in any way, there's still a difference between Nazir and Peiyos. By Nazir, you aren't allowed to cut your hair at all. Even by Peiyos, there is some destructive element to it. But when you comb, which hairs come out? The ones that are already loose enough that are going to come out. Right? That, when it comes to Peiyos, there's no hashchas at all. Right? So pulling out is not quite the same. Cutting is actually worse than pulling out, because cutting, you're cutting hairs that aren't ready to be destroyed. But pulling out, right, or combing at least, when it's not miskavein, that's going to be usher. Sorry, mutter. That's going to be mutter. Now, Rabbi Akiva Eiger, presumably the reason he thought this was a problem is because he intuitively felt that it's the opposite. The Nazir, what's the chiyuv by Nazir? By Nazir, it never says you can't cut your hair. What does it say? Grow your hair. Right? Gadol pera. So maybe Rabbi Akiva Eiger was bothered because he said, look, by Nazir you have to grow your hair. I am growing my hair. If I'm combing my hair and the weak hairs fall out, that doesn't change the fact that I'm growing my hair. So maybe that's why Rabbi Akiva Eiger intuitively felt that Nazir should be more Mekil. But the Chassam Sofer suggested, no, it's more Nazir is more Machmir. And that's why it's obvious that you can comb your hair. And he notes that he saw, and he said, what's his big raya? Some Sofer said, because my Rebbe wasn't machmir. That was his. He said, if you look at the third paragraph here, it says, some Sofer said, some maybe, Shemaisa l'Rabbanan kishishai sheyachmiru bazeh. So Lamaisa, he didn't say that people were machmir, including Ross and Adler, and therefore he was Mekil. Okay. Okay, so just because it was in the Chuvas Menhagos, I put it here, but I'm going to come back to it because it's not actually in the logical order. I just kept it all together. So let us skip down to 29. And we'll come back to the end of 26, 27, 28. Okay, fine. So once we've gotten to this point, now I have to ask, well, what does it mean? Even if you want to say that you have to leave your hair, how long does your hair have to be? Right? You have to leave your peiyos to be endlessly long. No, you just can't cut it, right, in a way that is somewhat destructive, that gets rid of them. Now, how much hair do you have to leave? So this is a big machlokes, and the Achronim all try to find rayot from different sugyot, because there is no explicit discussion in the early Rishonim when it comes to peiyos, and therefore they try to be medayek from other sugyot. So, for example, the Minchas Yitzchak is medayek from the Rambam in Nazir. The Rambam in Nazir says, when does a Nazir violate shaving his head? She said, Nazir shegilach zara achas loke bein betar bein bezug v'ho shekatza meikara ke'ein tar. A Nazir is chayiv when he cuts his hair however he does it. V'chenim tol shebiyado loka, or if he pulls it out, echad megalech misgalech shenemar tar lo yavra rosha, whether he shaves himself or someone where he is shaven. V'meniach memenu kedei lachu frosha liikara eino loka she'ein zeh ke'ein tar. But if he leaves enough hair that he can fold it over, right, that he can grab the hair and fold it back from the edge to the root, so then that is permitted. And the Minchas Yitzchak in 30 says that this is true for peiyos as well. Nafkamina gedola gamlin pasarosh va'azakin l'man machmer kein tar k'mavur b'shulchan aruch poskim sham dasarch la'asher kadei lachov rosho li'ikaran. He said he thinks that peiyos is the same shear. Right, you can cut your peiyos until only up until the point where you would still have enough room with the hair to fold it back into the head. So how long is that? I don't know. Figure it out yourself. Right? Take a hair. Right? If you have stubble, right? Stubble is not enough. Right? Stubble you can't really fold back. Right? At some point it gets long enough you can fold it back. That is going to be permitted. That's the position of the Minchas Yitzchak. Though he notes that Rabbi Akiva Eiger and he says that he found this in Rabbi Akiva Eiger as well. Rabbi Akiva Eiger says the same thing in his Tshuvot. The Be'er Halacha in 31, the Be'er Halacha wrote the Mishnah Brura, really waged war against people who shaved their head. He had quite a strong opposition to people who shaved their head. He wrote actually an entire sefer criticizing people who illicitly shaved their head and beard and were trying to be like the goyim, etc. Now he has a mini version of that polemic in the Be'er Halacha on Reish Nun Aleph, and he says v'yish Omrim the pas rosh chomer od mi pas zakin over alava fil mavirim misparayim kein tar the hainu samach lipsaro. Some, like Tosfos, say that peiyos are even more machmer in the beard because it's also even with permitted scissors. He said, look, I see all these people who shave their peiyos up to the head, up to the skin. And they're violating, or they might be violating daraisa. They should have left a little bit, at least a little bit. Now, how much is that? I don't know, but it sounds like Mishnah Brura thinks that I don't know how much do you think a little is? I don't know. It's presumably less than right, enough to fold it over, right? He says, right, if you're leaving it over, right, destruction is total. What is mutter? Ktas min ktas. Yoser mizeh yesh mechorm sefer misaper rosho meleach lo ser sheitzel azno machma shemutan v'choshem basa rosh nikar rak masha anu karn peya v'lochen kasher gasavnu lav gomer daraisa l'direi akol v'gamzel lav afilo anikav chanal al karga afilo misaper who eno yudi yishol zero. And he said, therefore, because the prohibition applies both to the person getting the haircut and giving it, even if a non-Jew is cutting his hair, he should tell the barber, don't cut my hair. Don't cut off my peyos. How much that is, I don't know, but he seems to be more makil than the Minchas Yitzchak. The Torah Lishma, which is it's an interesting book. The Torah Lishma is a tshuva sefer, which is probably written by the Ben Ish Chai, but we don't really know because the Ben Ish Chai was motzi it under a pseudonym, and it's generally assumed that he actually wrote it. Why he didn't put it under his own name, I have no idea. But that's the Torah Lishma. The Torah Lishma is a different shir, which he gets from the Rambam in Hilchos Parah Aduma. The Rambam by Parah Aduma is a prohibition to cut the hair as well. And he says, how much is it? So he says, V'tzarech sheishar min hamadim kedei shinotel bezug. Shekol shar shein and tel bezug areu ki'ilu eina. The Rambam says it's not considered a hair if you can't grab it with a tweezer. Once you can't grab the hair with a tweezer, it doesn't exist. So the Torah Lishman 33 takes that for this, and he says, Matzinu b'din para aduma, pasuk Rambam, etc. Miu matzinu sheishir acher l'chomra v'shir k'dei lachov roshan li'karan. So he said, the Rambam has two different shiurim. He prefers the longer shear, as he says, the longer the better, because then it'll be seen. Because we glorify ourselves in mitzvos, but he suggests the possibility that it's that shorter shear. So, how much do you have to leave? Not so much. The Prisha as well in 34 just says, what is asur? It's asur until it's chalak. Until it's absolutely smooth, which sounds like how much do you have to leave? Very, very minimal. Okay, so Lamaitha, what do you do with that? Right? You have the Prisha, the Mishnah Berurah say leave a little bit, don't shave it entirely. Then you have the Torah Lishma who says maybe it's as much as you grab with the tweezers, or maybe it has to be longer, Leminchas Yitzchak, that it's enough to fold over. So Rav Belsky gives you practical advice in 35. He says he thinks it's probably enough if you leave it to a number 2, right? Which is 2/8 of an inch or a quarter of an inch, right? So when you go to the barber, it says number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number whatever. Rabelsky said probably a number 2 is enough to fulfill all the positions. If you want to be strict, so he said definitely a number 3, right? So 3/8 of an inch, right, is going to be sufficient, but probably a quarter of an inch is sufficient, or a number 2 on your shaver. So that is the position. That's the practical advice that Rav Belsky gives. Though, as we've seen, you could theoretically defend an even more makel position. That it would just be enough, even just to grab with the tweezers, which I don't know, maybe even a 1. Right, 1 you could probably. Right, probably a quarter of an eighth of an inch. You probably could still grab it with the tweezers. I don't know. I don't think you could fold it over, but you could probably grab it with the tweezers, so you could defend that. But Lamais the poskim, as you see, tend to be a bit more machmir, and they say, look, it's a chash daraisa at the end of the day. You might as well be machmir. So they give you these practical, more sort of expansive shita. Okay, now let's say you've hit all the shita. Is there a value in having even longer peyos? So, 36. The Rambam tells you no. Rambam says absolutely not. There isn't. Just look at the last line. He says, "Ein hadavar b'peyos kach elu mitzvahs lo say levad ufichach eino chayav legadlon ela asura alav hashchasa levad." So no, it is a prohibition. Don't violate the prohibition, and that's it. There is no mitzvahs asay. It doesn't say grow your peyos. It says don't cut them. So once you've checked off the boxes, you're done. You don't need long payas. You don't need anything beyond the absolute minimum. There is no value. But as we all know, there are many people with very long payas. So where does it come from? So in many of the mystical Makaros, you do get all type of suggestions. The most fun is Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman has this, I couldn't find it in the original, but I found this online. Rav Nachman promised people that if they would go to Uman and daven at his grave, say the Tikkun Klali every day, the 10 Kapitlach Tehillim, and give tzedakah for his own sake, that no matter how great his sin will be, he promises that he will pull them out of Gehenna by their peyos. That was his promise. So there are many Hasidim who like this and say, if I have long peyos, it gives Rav Nachman more room to pull me out of Gehenna if I'm there. Though I have to say, once I don't know how I ended up here, but we were visiting, I do know, we were visiting, before I moved to Staten Island, we lived in Brooklyn Heights, so we went back to visit the shul, and the rabbi, it's not a Chabad shul, but the rabbi is a Chabad rabbi, and he was having a, one of those parades, I don't know, Knesset Sefer Torah, I don't know what it was, Lag BaOmer, who knows what it was, and some not from guy, come over to him and said, why is it that I see all these Hasidim, they have those long side curls, and the Chabad, you don't have any of you don't have peyos. So the guy told him, he said, look, Rav Nachman of Breslov said that if you go to Gehenna, and you have peyos, he promised he'll pull you out of Gehenna. We say that if you come with us, you'll never go to Gehenna, so you don't need peyos to be pulled out by. Okay. I don't know what to make of either of those shittos. I honestly have no clue. But that's one of the mystical things that is indeed quoted, is this Masorah from Nachman of Breslov. In 39, I gave you from the Moadim L'Simcha. He writes, that many of the Hasidim think that for some reason, and they talk about all types of mystical reasons, it brings down the Shefa from God, I don't know exactly what it is, but long peyos are a skula for long life. V'kach masupar alagon marsham miberezen shemayosu yeled nasam aviv listofes b'tzel atzadik agon Rav Meir mipar mishlan zatzal kasher Rehuva yeled lifnei atzadik hoshivo birkav miyaseis et peyosav. So he went to visit the Rav Meir par Mishlan. He was sitting on his lap and he was playing with his peyos. V'amar zekeinecha Rabbi Shalom lo kitzis peyosav kol yemei chayav. He said, your grandfather Rabbi Shalom never cut his peyos. V'uskulu larichas yamim, and it's a skula for long life. Al kain tinai gam ato kain lo tikzos mipeoscha v'tizke gam av ata larichos yamim. So there is this. This is Mitzorah, and he quotes it as well from the Belzer and from the Barditchever, that it gives you long life, and then he says maybe we do it specifically to counter those who are mashches. Okay. So there are, if you look through different Hasidic Svarim, you'll see that this comes up a lot. A similar related question that the poskim have is, okay, well, once you have peyos, are you allowed to put them behind your ears? Right? If you're already growing long peyos, should you hide them, or does that show that you're embarrassed? So I'm not going to get to read it all aside, but B'Kitzur, the Mishnah Brura opposes people putting their tzitzis in their pants, because he says it shows that you are embarrassed of mitzvahs and you're not being mekayim seeing it. So is peyos the same way? So first of all, it's not clearly passing like the Mishnah Brura on this, right? The Mishnah Brura is but not everyone agrees with the Mishnah Brura. With peyos, so some of the poskim are very, very makbid on this and say the same thing is true of peyos. The Chazon Ish apparently said this. I gave you in 42. And he said maybe in Chutz La'aretz you can hide your peyos because you have to be afraid of the goyim, but in Eretz Yisrael you shouldn't be. And the Mishnah Alach was in 40, says Chas v'Shalom, you should never hide your peyos. On the other hand, the Az Nidbaru says, I don't know what you're talking about. Who are you kidding? Right? My peyos are behind my ears now, and you can see them. Right? It's very hard to keep your peyos behind your ears. Realistically, tzitzis, I understand. Even if you want to say you're not ashamed of mitzvah, so don't hide your tzitzis, your peyos. You're not tricking anybody. They may be behind your ears, but very practically doesn't matter. There is also this Kabbalistic thing that if you do have long peyos, the Yisod Shorish Havodah says you shouldn't let your peyos cover your ears during Shmona Esrei. It's something about it interfering with tefillos going up to Shamayim. I have no idea what this means. I mamish have no idea I don't know what this means, but I gave it to you. And you can see the Oz Nidbru isn't thrilled with this in number 45. Okay, just the last thing to note. So that's basically, again, the simple halachic thing is Rambam Paskins, you're allowed to even cut off your payos as long as you do it with the right scissors. Tosfos says not that way. Most people are machmir. How long do you have to keep them? So we saw either leave a little bit or enough to fold it over, whatever, a 2, a 3, whatever, something like that. 40 hairs, right? Once you have 40 hairs, you're definitely fine, according to the Rambam. We mentioned some of the mystical stuff, right? That it's Arichos Yamim, brings on Shefa, it saves you from Gehenna, who knows? That is just a bit on payos. There's plenty more. The last thing I'll just note, which isn't this, but this is a totally different halachic issue that comes up, is curling payos on Shabbos. So this is actually a real problem. The Gemara in Shabbos Tatzadihei says that braiding hair on Shabbos is bona, either Jaraisa or Jaraban, Machlok Rishonim, because the pasuk says that Hashem Vayiven et Atzela, right, built Chava, and the Chazal darshan that it means that for their first date, Hashem braided Chava's hair for Adam, and we call it bona. And therefore, structuring your hair in braids and the like is usher, either midoraisa or dirabanan, and therefore the post can bring down that twirling your payos, at least in a way that really is meant to keep a shape, might be usher midoraisa on Shabbos, and that is that's the bolded part I gave you in 26 from the Chuvas Van Hagos. Some of the poskim, distinguish between, right, how much you're twirling them, right, if you're doing it. Now, they also know that often the people who have the biggest problem with this are Hasidim, who go to the mikveh all the time. So he said, make sure that your chumrah going to the mikveh doesn't turn into a hechitim for you violating this doraisa of boneh on Shabbos. There's also a potential problem of pulling out hairs, right, as you twirl them, and so there are a lot of Shabbos halachos. The poskim just note, if you do have longer payos, you have to be careful about, don't twirl them and try not to pull on them too much if that's going to pull out hair, and that's what I gave you in 26, 27, 28. There's a lot more, as I said, on payos and beards and the like, but it is time for Mariv.